This is a short introduction to social tagging as knowledge organisation. It provides a brief definition and explanation of tagging and folksonomy and suggests a couple of resources that you might like to read to learn a little more about tagging in relation to cultural heritage search systems. What do we mean by social tagging then? Well, social tagging generally means the practice whereby internet users generate keywords to describe and categorize or comment on digital content. Tagging allows users to record their individual responses to the information objects. And tagging tools are generally formed of a triplet of user, information object, and keyword. Historically, social tagging has its origins in the development of online bookmarking systems, such as ItList, which began in 1996. But it was a social bookmarking service, Delicious, that started in 2003 that coined the term tagging. What was agreed on from the early days is the value of tagging comes when a collection of social tags is aggregated and shared in a folksonomy. So what is a folksonomy? Well, folksonomies are automatically generated related tags derived from the set of terms with which a group of users have tagged content. So they are not a predetermined set of classification terms or labels. We can distinguish between two different types of folksonomy. So we have the broad folksonomy, in which many people can tag the same object. So each person is tagging from their own perspective. An example of this is Delicious. And there's a narrow folksonomy, in which tags for a document are recorded only once, so that only new tags can be applied. And it's not possible to measure tag frequency. In such systems, tagging is often limited to the object's creator or author, although that's not always the case. And Flickr, Technorati, and YouTube are examples of narrow folksonomies. From the early days, champions of tagging and folksonomy lauded the flexible, the participative, and the collaborative nature of social tagging, which is democratic when it involves all users, and is emergent in that tags can change rapidly in response to new content. Folksonomy systems are useful because they facilitate serendipitous discovery through browsing, and they can allow for tracking desire lines. They're also useful because of their low entry barriers in relation to cost and education, training, and experience. And the feedback on tagging systems is immediate. The sharing of tags and the instant feedback that can be derived from user-generated tagging facilitates a high level of community interaction, which would probably not be possible if decisions had to be made about codes and conventions and rules, such as might be found in the governance of any tightly controlled taxonomy. So taggings are inclusive, incorporate no imposed cultural or political bias. Its language is current, fluid, capable of incorporating terminology, non-binary, democratic, self-moderating, follows desire lines, engenders community, and offers excellent usability. Their free form and uncontrolled nature means that tags are able to describe authentically an object in fluent, current, and flexible language. And they can be created and applied on the fly because they are inclusive and they give equal weight to long-tail interests. And as such, they are fundamentally different from the formal and traditional taxonomies that requires language stability and some level of control. The disadvantages, or at least the weaknesses in social tagging, have long been recognized in the literature. Martinez Avila produces really nice summary of the weaknesses of social tagging. So he writes, people lie in a competitive world. Common people are too lazy to do something they do not understand. People refuse to exercise care and diligence in their tag creation. People do not know themselves. Schemata are not neutral. Metrics influence results. And there's more than one way to describe something. I must admit that I quite enjoy the bluntness of this summary. Among the weaknesses of social tagging are the lack of synonym and homonym control, the lack of precision and hierarchy. And there's a kind of basic level problem where broad and narrow terms are used interchangeably. And there is also a susceptibility to unethical gaming. They can lead to imprecision and inexactness and ambiguity. And the lack of control and, of course, the opportunities for over-personalization create the potential for chaos and unpredictability. Tagging might allow for a wide range of voices to be heard, but the burden of judging relevance is then on the information seeker. Despite this, many scholars conclude that the benefits of tagging outweigh the costs, and they promote investments in the ways of improving tags, both at systems level, such as tidying tags or tag bundles, and user level, tag literacy. And the literature overall suggests that information professionals believe that some form of rationalization is necessary at some point in relation to tags. As early as 2007, Peters and Stock put together a really nice summary of strengths and weaknesses. Here's the strengths, so they include the authenticity of language, the multiple interpretations, cheap, the only way to index mass information. They can be sources of development for ontologies and thesauri, give quality control to the masses, allow for searching, and perhaps even better, for browsing, recognize neologisms, help to identify communities. They're sources for collaborative recommender systems, and they can make people sensitive to information indexing. Some of the weaknesses that they note include, or maybe the challenges that have to be dealt with, but they include the absence of controlled vocabulary, different basic levels, language merging, hidden paradigmatic relations, tags that do not only identify aboutness, spam tags, and other misleading keywords, and the conflation of ofness and aboutness, iconology and isness. As regards examples, well, I really enjoy literary-based tagging projects, things like Goodreads and library things, but Archive of Our Own is really interesting to look at in this context. And one of the reasons I like this site is because the focus is so very much on participation and creativity, but also the people managing Archive of Our Own are very interested in questions about how an organization manages tagging in practice. Because for all the gestures towards freedom and creativity, it seems that in practice, tagging needs some kind of discipline. And related to this, I'd like to recommend this paper by Lou Golding and Nicol. It's very interesting because it includes an overview of some existing community projects, and it offers some suggestions about developing and maintaining community-orientated participatory projects that use digital platforms. And one of the important issues that is emphasized in this paper is the question of curation and of disciplining, even when engaging users. So just to finish off, I'd like to recommend this paper because this paper continues to discuss some of these issues. Proceed with caution. So this paper compares the finding of two nearly identical studies, one conducted in 2010, one in 2016. So there's a survey which was asking practitioners about their concerns in relation to social tagging. And the view in this paper is that there is more critical opinion about tagging in the recent survey. And some of the recommendations that come out of this study include spell checking features with tagging systems, tutorials, the ability to block users, and some kind of reviewing system for tags. But despite these calls for safeguards, digital librarians and archivists remain optimistic about the potential benefits of tagging, even though they are also wary of uncontrolled and unmediated tags. Thank you very much for listening.